All right. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we are back taking a look at the tropics. Tonight is Tuesday, August 24th, 2021, and this is your evening tropical update. We continue to watch three areas of interest in the Atlantic basin tonight. Of the most concerning is a tropical wave located in the eastern Caribbean. The system generally moving to the west northwest. It's going to interact with a bunch of tropical moisture and could pose a threat to Texas, Louisiana, or even parts of Mexico later in the weekend or really early next week. But a lot of uncertainty with the system, but definitely trends are growing more concerning. So most of the video will be on this, but we also wanted to highlight Invest 97L, a tropical wave in the central Atlantic moving up into the subtropics. This will likely become a tropical depression and tropical storm late this week, but right now trends look like they're going to move it away from the land. And we also have another wave following 97L, but this also looks like it's going to turn and follow its friend here. And there's some more nonsense coming off of Africa, but right now we're just going to kind of put that to the side because we got enough on our plate. Hurricane Center's evening update map shows that our wave in the Caribbean up to a 60% chance of development, and the disturbance in the subtropics up to 70%, the most likely to form of these three in the next couple of days, and then the other wave down to 30%, and it looks like upper level winds are not going to let this thing develop after a few days. This shows up on our ensemble model as well. This is the European models, and we're just going to use it for a general illustration purpose. And just ignore this right now. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. But the outcomes for this system does look pretty much like a non-issue for the U.S. You likely have a development chance later this week, but all indications are that the wave in the Central Atlantic will move away, and then not a lot of support for the wave following it. Looks like less favorable winds. All these what you see down here leaving Africa are from another system, and again, we're just gonna put those on the back burner for now. So let's go ahead and get into 97 or the wave in the Caribbean tonight, because this again is our biggest threat. And what we're going to basically see is this tropical wave we currently see on satellite presentation. Definitely a tropical wave, nothing organized yet, but trop axis right about through here. And this is generally moving to the west, not super fast, but is moving along, kind of being tugged along by this upper low right here, which is pulling some moisture northward. You can also see it on water vapor pretty clear, beginning to kind of, you can see all these clouds rising in this direction, kind of pulling all this moisture along as it moves into a more moist area, which is a lot of the monsoon trough and just general just showers and storms across Central America. And all of this is kind of waiting on this wave to show up, and the kick of these two things will combine for a tropical storm or tropical depression somewhere in the south or western Caribbean in a couple days, and should eventually all move towards the Yucatan towards the weekend. So the big question for this wave is really going to be where exactly this forms. This is kind of where we start with the European model, showing you Thursday afternoon, broad wave axis still now just to the west of Jamaica. And as we go through Thursday, Friday, and into Saturday morning, we have a low level center beginning to consolidate near the Yucatan, likely a weaker tropical storm, a broad, messy storm to say the least. And then the European model carries this a bit further north into the Gulf and develops it later on in the forecast. But before we get into the part of the Gulf of Mexico, the actual formation is important. So the European basically just shows one center consolidating on the northern edge of all this cyclonic circulation. GFS is a little different though, because we go into Thursday again. The GFS shows a very elongated, look how elongated the circulation is, very egg shaped. And it's showing potential vorticity centers on the north and south flank of this. And this kind of continues as you go into Friday and Saturday, as all sort of rotates up. You can see two distinct vorticity centers out of this broader rotation. There's a broad rotation, but then there's smaller rotations inside the broad rotation. And what this means is you got a big, messy wave envelope that's going to take some time to consolidate. Now, what the GFS does, it takes the southern lobe and eventually rotates it up into the northern lobe and kind of pinwheels it around to one storm. But this takes some considerable time, and you'll have a big, messy tropical something or other moving into the Yucatan Peninsula by Sunday. So the crux here is if that southern flank, say, becomes more dominant, you might have two tropical systems actually is what the GFS is trying to show. Is this is a big wave. So I mean, you could have a tropical storm kind of go into Central America and one break off and go northward. If you have a more dominant center that kind of pulls that low level center in, you may have a storm move more southward into parts of like basically if this becomes the dominant center and it doesn't rotate up, you could have a circulation like that. This is a messy pattern. I want to stress that the forecast is still of low certainty right now. with how the center action could play out. But the GFS does eventually also consolidate a center along the Yucatan Peninsula, again, similar to what the European does. And by Sunday, both of the models have this thing moving off the Yucatan and into the Gulf of Mexico. And this is where it kind of gets rough because both systems, or both computer models, do landfall this in Texas and Louisiana. Now, the GFS landfalls this as a particularly strong hurricane right into central Texas, right around the Corpus Christi area, just south of Houston, which would be pretty bad. The European model rather takes us a bit further north and moves it into central Louisiana. The issue here is this broad upper level high, this high pressure ridge that's sitting over the Carolinas tonight. So this is valid on Saturday evening. So we have whatever our tropical system would be. We're going to use the GFS here just as an example. But this upper level high is what's steering the system to the west, and then will be collapsing through the forecast period. So you can see by Monday, the high isn't nearly as pronounced anymore. It's still, the high is still here. It's just not nearly as strong, and it's allowing more of a turn to the north for the system to kind of gain some latitude. So instead of being pushed into Mexico by what would be a stronger high pressure, it's much weaker and further away. And the clockwise flow around the storm means that it wants to pull more northward into Texas or Louisiana. We see this again on the little bit different. This is still a 500 millibar chart, but we've kind of zoomed back in a little bit. GFS sees a little bit of a weaker high than the European does. The GFS sees the high, the GFS sees a stronger high. See how the edge of the anomaly kind of stretches out into parts of Alabama, Mississippi, and whatnot. But the European model, valid roughly the same time. Um, well, really should go into Saturday for that. The European model is a little. I guess what the model really is showing is that it's actually going to weaken the high a little bit faster. So the European breaks the high down completely by Monday, where the GFS kind of takes a little longer for the high to break down, and consequently is a bit. So like see on Monday the GFS lost this high hanging on a little bit over the Carolinas, which would influence the storm to push more to the west, whereas the European model, the high is completely gone by Monday and you have a system further east towards the Louisiana side of things. So the question really is going to be when this high breaks down and how much the system could or cannot turn, to the north, and little details will be a big deal. But one thing that is concerning is the rest of the environment is going to look really good for this wave. And this is the problem. If we get a close circulation center somewhere along the Yucatan coast and you have all this tropical moisture is not going to be a problem for this system. It's going to have plenty of tropical moisture and it's going to have plenty of warm water. We'll just get that real quick. Plenty of warm water, plenty of moisture. That's not going to be a big issue. The only thing that can really slow this thing down is upper level winds. Upper level winds look really favorable. This is the forecast 200 millibar winds as we go into Sunday. GFS, again, we're just going to use this as an example. The system has moved off the Yucatan. You have an organized tropical, probably storm in this model. The only thing that really bothers the storm is this little upper trough trying to dig into it. And this could be a bit of an issue. It could definitely impart some wind shear. Sometimes drier air can sneak in along this from like the mountains of Mexico and whatnot. You have this kind of downslope flow that loses a lot of moisture. You have this pretty dry wind coming off of Mexico's mountains, and if you have a wind like that, sometimes some dry air can get in. But I'm imagining what's going to happen is so much tropical moisture gets wrapped into this, it won't be a problem. And this trough is pretty weak sauce by this point. But my God, look at the divergent flow aloft. This is beautiful divergent flow. Classic hurricane outflow aloft, where in the upper levels of the atmosphere, you actually have this cyclonic or anticyclonic rotation aloft that is exhausting the storm. It's like your car's exhaust pipe. It's got to get that old air out and carbon monoxide out so new air can come in. And that's what this does. And this looks concerning because if you have this perfect outflow aloft, and you have this kind of warm water where the storm would be right about here going into this 88 or 86 to 88 degree water, even warmer towards the actual coastline. That's not good. Ensemble models showing the potential for range of landfalls. This is GFS ensembles tonight. Still some go into Texas. Again, the GFS sees a little bit stronger high pressure, so these are more clustered on the south and west side from like Corpus Christi down to Mexico with a couple members towards Louisiana, whereas the European evening ensemble guidance does show a wide range of outcomes, but more members are into Texas and Louisiana because it sees a weaker high, so the system can lift a bit more northward, just a few members into Mexico. So this is a wide range of outcomes, so it tells us that we're nowhere near ready to make any kind of call on this. So when you see people on social media posting this on their website going, oh, killer hurricane coming for Texas, it's too early for that. It really is too early for that. But I think we're at the point now where this is a bit more concerning. There needs to be some more trends on getting the forecast ready. I think the Hurricane Center will make this an invest. They're going to start throwing some more model data at it. We're going to start running some different options. There's a lot of time to go. Again, where this thing actually consolidates is critical. There's going to be a lot of chaos in this part of the forecast period. So, this thing could wind up somehow getting into the land and never really reforming, or it might form on the north side if it goes into the Gulf. You get something here with that kind of condition late this week or this weekend, you've got a problem somewhere on the western side of the Gulf Coast. So that's kind of the bottom line tonight. So keep a close eye on this in Texas and Louisiana, especially central Gulf Coast. Alabama, Mississippi. Keep an eye on it because if it comes far enough east, you guys could be on the table as well. But definitely a system to watch. It's just a little too early for anything specific or to be running for the hills or canceling plans and all that stuff. It's a wait and see thing. Go over to the Eastern Pacific. Not much else going on. Marty has already remnant tropical low has been issued its last advisory. This was what Grace was, so her time finally come to an end. Another system will develop off the coast of Mexico, but like most systems out here, it will move away from land. And not much else going on. It's quiet in the Central Pacific, and it is quiet in the Western Pacific, so not too bad. So that's mostly what I got for you guys tonight. I just wanted to quickly mention that tonight is the anniversary of Hurricane Andrew. This hit on August 24th, 1992 at 5 a.m. The central pressure was about 922 millibars. Andrew was, of course, a Category 5 hurricane, one of four to hit the United States on record. Maximum sustained winds were 165 miles an hour. Andrew killed 65 people total between Florida, the Bahamas, and then his second landfall in Louisiana a few days later. 44 of those deaths were in South Florida. Andrew, of course, caused catastrophic damage in south of Miami and around Homestead in Miami-Dade County. The system was incredibly powerful. It leveled homes. It made the landscape unrecognizable, and recovery took a long time after the storm. It is a generational storm for South Florida, and we really hope that we won't see another one like this for quite a long time. But tonight makes 29 years since Andrew made landfall in the area. So just a quick history tidbit for you tonight. Only one of four Category 5s to ever hit the U.S. So that's what I got for you guys this evening. We're gonna keep a close eye on this system, and again, the rest of this stuff not gonna bother us, but this wave will be something to watch carefully in the coming days, and we'll have all the updates right here. So till then, stay safe. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.